Hi everyone, welcome to our 6th devlog. I'm here with Thomas today and we're going to be explaining to you what has been going on in our lives, or not really our lives, what has been going on in Forge industry for the past month or so. So yeah, stay tuned, we got a lot of cool stuff going up and yeah. So what did we do the last month or so? Well, first of all, we went to Gameforce. More on that, as all of these things we'll explain in depth later. We started working on our optimization. We redid basically our complete pathfinding, and we expanded upon our mod support. Those are the 4 main topics, and then we have some lightning round later on, so stay tuned for those. Maybe we can start by going over what do I mean with optimization. Doesn't really sound the most sexy or like visual pleasing thing, but Thomas, you worked quite hard on it, so maybe you can explain a bit more what's going on there.
Yeah, so like Marnik said, it's not the sexiest thing in the world to talk about, because the only thing it does is make sure your PC go brrr a bit more. So yeah, the game runs smoother. To do this we used already 3 techniques, but we have a lot more in the pipeline that we want to do. The first one is GPU instancing our workers. We already did this concept on our Flora in the world, but now we also wanted to do it with workers because we wanted to make sure it's scalable enough so we don't waste too much horsepower on that. We also started with a tool to combine meshes. That way we can still create individual models like our recreation area and combine them to one more optimized model that we can then use our third concept on, and that is LODs, and that's very simple. It's just stand for level of detail. If you're zoomed out a lot, you don't have to have every single detail of the model ready to go. You just want to make sure it looks good enough, and that's also an optimization we did.
So yeah, then the second big thing, of course, that happened between last devlog and the current one is, as probably quite a few of you are subscribed because of it, we went to Gameforce. So Gameforce, as a quick reminder, if you have no idea what we're talking about, it's Belgium's largest gaming convention. It took place at the beginning of October this month. And it's just 2 days of total madness where the whole gang, me, Thomas, Jamie and William, we went down to the capital of Belgium, and for 2 days straight we kept on giving demos, we explained things about our game, and basically we just wanted to spread the word about our upcoming game as much as possible. Quite a few of you guys are probably subscribed because of meeting us there, so if so, thanks a lot for your support there. Of course, Gameforce took quite a bit of time, especially the first 2 weeks after our last devlog, with stuff, for example, like getting a specific Gameforce build ready, working on a tutorial, and then just Gameforce itself was just 2 days of pure mayhem, solving bugs basically between the evenings of the event even. So that also caused us to take a bit of a short break right after Gameforce, because we had just been working very hard to make sure we could deliver as good of a demo as possible, which did pay off if you ask me. So yeah, because of that, we haven't really done as much feature-wise and cool things for this devlog, but we're hoping to pick up that space by next devlog. So one of the things I said we did that is pretty cool if you ask me is we worked on cooperative pathfinding. Or I say we, it was mainly William, who has basically just been hating his life with it. But I think Thomas also has quite a good understanding of what it exactly means, maybe without the too technical depth. If it's something you're interested in how we did our pathfinding, let us know in the comments, and maybe we can see if we can let William himself maybe explain a bit more detail in a standalone video. But yeah, Thomas, can you give me a quick rundown? What is cooperative pathfinding? Why do we need it? And why should the viewers care?
So what is cooperative pathfinding and why should you care? Well, in our previous builds, we always used regular pathfinding, which just included looking at the world and taking the shortest route from A to B so a worker would get there the quickest. However, you can imagine if there's a lot of traffic, even in the real world, it might be more efficient to take another route, even though it's longer, but it will get you there quicker. And that's very rough terms what it is. So instead of just looking at our world, we also take into account the time and an estimation of where the workers will be at a given moment in time. And that way, well, you can see your production values increase even more. And that's also an extra, level of depth to the game, because now traffic is way more of a problem feature than before, making it a lot more, well, thoughtful and challenging to create a good and optimized world.
So yeah, pathfinding should really add a lot of depth to our game, as Thomas said, and also make it a bit more, yeah, not as easy and just, oh, you just click and everything goes as fast as possible. No, you have to think actually. And then speaking of thinking, one last thing that we have been thinking about a lot is modding support. We also talked about it at Gameforce, and we already had a first implementation of our modding support. However, as part of our optimization, we also did some refactoring of our code base so we could really allow for better modding support. I'm no programmer, he is, so he can probably explain you better than me what do we exactly mean with modding support, where do we want to go for, and how does it look?
Yeah, so basically what we are aiming for is that everyone, no matter if they are a programmer or not, can create mods for our game, just by giving them a toolkit and clicking a few buttons, adding a model, and that's it. However, we also want to make sure that programmers can expand our game. So if we have a slight different view on how the game should work, they can change it how they want. In the past, we already had a basic implementation of this. We used it for decorative buildings, for example. However, we are now expanding that as promised to, well, allow for items, more advanced buildings, so you can create your own, well, buildings that actually convert and create materials and things like that. So yeah, that's what we are also working on right now, and is a very exciting feature. And even someone with little to no programming knowledge right here next to me has already created his first mod, so it's nice to see.
Yeah, so modding, why do we want it? Is basically because we want to make sure that even if you've played through all of our game and you just want more, you want to feed the machine, you can either, if there's no mods being made yet, you can be the first one to make your own expansions, for example, or we can have the community, you can just download one of the pre-made community mods and, for example, create new stations or new concepts in the game that we just didn't feel like putting in immediately because maybe it didn't exactly fit our vision. Of course, those are just the main things, and what would a devlog be without a lightning round? So let's quickly go over some of the other small things that we did this past month or so. We did add one new building. It's not the most fancy, but it's a notice board. The notice board has one main feature. It shows you what are the current active world events. So before we already had dynamic world events, but if they came up as a small toast, if you missed them, you missed them. And we noticed that, hey, that's not really that handy. I want to see what is currently going on in the world. So we now have an extra small building you can place, and if you can then select it, and it shows you what is the current thing that's going on. Is there burglaries? Is there fire somewhere? We want to expand this later on with our harbor mechanic as well, so we'll get back to that. But we have a first implementation of that one working right now. Another thing that we did was we had some struggles with our item statistics and tracking it. For example, for our tutorial, we noticed that we couldn't actually track, for example, if you bought or if you sold items like coal or iron, which was kind of critical if you want to later on, for example, track those things or make statistics or achievements based on it. Thomas fixed that one. And then one other big one, or not really big one is, but not code-wise, is we finally got our pipeline set up again, and we really improved it a lot as well. So months ago, we made a video about creating your first basic pipeline in GitLab. We now expanded that because we had quite some issues with like all of our unit tests and play mode tests were failing, but we were still merging because we just had to keep on grinding for Gameforce, and we would worry about the tests later. Now we have a really solid pipeline, if you ask me, where if you are pushing changes that fail the builds or fail the tests, you can't merge them anymore. So that way we know we always have a working up-to-date version whenever we commit something, for example. That also really makes it easier if someone wants to, oh, I want to see what your game looks like, we can just log into some web panel and download the latest build. So those are the things we did last month. What are we going to do the next month? That's the real big question, because this one wasn't really the most sexy, and next month we do want to build some more cool mechanics. Speaking of not cool mechanics, Thomas will be doing those. and he will be optimizing the game further. I think maybe you can give a quick explanation of what is in the pipeline for that one.
Yeah, so I already mentioned a few optimization techniques, but we're going to expand on those and create entirely new ones because, well, the game is playable in the demo state. However, it is not very scalable at the moment. So once we create a very big world, we can see our FPS tank, and as our gamer friends would say, it's only a 60 FPS buttery smooth that we want. So that's where we are aiming for. That's our minimum requirement. So yeah, there are a lot of techniques we want to use, like light baking, perhaps looking further in GPU instancing more, things like that. It's not very sexy at all, and I'm obviously looking forward to doing all of those things. Yeah.
We'll probably also, once we're done with all the optimization, we'll probably also make a quick standalone video where Thomas can go through everything basically that we did, every single mechanic, how it works a bit in optimizing your game, because I'm pretty sure that the indie game developers around us that are watching these videos may also be interested in something like that, so stay tuned for that. And then the sexy stuff we will be doing will be our harbor system. So what our game basically was now is the core mechanic of crafting and walking. We have that one pretty much not nailed down, but we have it working in a quite good degree now. But we want to expand on our last main mechanic that we have been teasing and talking about a lot at Gameforce, for example, which is really tying up your little blacksmithing farm or empire into the whole bigger picture of you're in an entire world, and the key to that would be the harbor. So the harbor is where you can ship your items, it's where you have the real like dynamic markets, it's where you can choose how you marry, who you marry. And currently none of that has really been implemented apart from just the model of this is going to be the harbor. So next month me, William and Jamie will be working on that one mainly. The main things you want to do there is get the world map done, so we already have we can show the vision a bit more, and also focus on our shipment mechanics and selling mechanics through the harbor instead of just the marketplace, which immediately sells something. We'll also see, can we fit in more advanced like request systems, for example, when there are warring factions and they want to order 1,000 swords from you. But that one we're not sure about yet, so the only way you'll be able to know if we actually did that is to check in next month for our latest devlog. That brings us to the end of this devlog. I hope you got a bit more of a vision of what have we been up to. We are still very much working on the game because we do have a release in March. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe. If you want to interact with us now, we have a Discord server linked down below. So you can join there, you can do feature requests, you can interact with the community of other people who are following along with us. We're making this game. If there's something cool, we might share it there as well. Apart from that, we can also be wishlisted on Steam if you haven't done that. So we are on Steam now. Link is also for that one in the description. If you're able to, please wishlist. It helps us a lot. It also gives us some feedback, like what are, for example, the platforms that we should look into. If we have a lot of Linux-based wishlists, we can maybe give a bit more attention there, for example. So yeah, I think that's about it.
That's about it.
That's about it. So we'll go.
Maybe our Twitter plug.
No, we also have a Twitter. If you want to see just some weird bugs, for example, that we encounter, or some cool little status updates, you can also follow us on Twitter, see it there. You can also interact with us, shoot us a DM, whatever.
Sliding into the DMs.
Sliding into the DMs. DMs are open, I guess. So yeah, that wraps up this devlog. We are going to go back to our grinding. Thomas can go to his optimization, and then yeah, we'll see you guys next month with another devlog. Thanks for stopping by, and
bye.
Goodbye.